All right, thanks everybody for joining. We're just waiting on Conrad and we'll get started. Good. Can we hear everyone?
Hey everyone. Craig, we got you.
No good. We're just going to wait for Craig's sound to get fixed and we will get started. Sorry guys, a little glitch here.
Good to see you, buddy. How you doing?
Take two. Yes, we're live.
Got me?
Good to go. Awesome. We're going to get started. Thanks again to everybody for listening in. My name is Ari Zuckerman, Vice President at Centercourt Sports Academy. For all the new listeners, our goal for the Centercourt webinar series is to keep valuable information flowing to the tennis and local community, and to keep all of you engaged with creative ideas throughout the current challenging situation. I'm certainly thrilled to have with us today Craig O'Shaughnessy and Conrad Singh. Craig has worked with Novak Djokovic, pretty impressive, for the past couple of years, as well as numerous other singles and doubles players on tour. He's also been a lead strategy analyst for the Australian Open, Wimbledon, and other tournaments. Craig has been featured on the Tennis Channel and ESPN for his insight and revolutionary way of breaking down the game. Conrad, many of you know as well, will be joining us for this discussion. Conrad is the Centercourt COO. He's the Director of Coaching and High Performance. Our main topics today are going to focus on, among other things, insights into today's top strategies. You, the audience, will be playing a huge role as well, as we highly encourage you to submit any questions and topics that you would like to have us discuss. Greg, we'll start with you. I have a million questions, but I wanted to begin with initially with your thoughts on Moneyball. If people don't know, that was the groundbreaking movie in 2011 with Brad Pitt that basically spoke about analytics in baseball, and wanted to get your thoughts on how analytics has changed the professional tennis game and where that is headed.
Yeah, definitely. When I saw that movie, I'm like, that's tennis just in a few years. I'd love to get involved with that. And in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, Michael Lewis, who wrote that book, invited me on for a podcast here in the near future. So such a great honor to be involved with that. But, you know, all sports all around the world look to analytics and look to the numbers to figure out what's really happening in matches. So just a little bit of history here. Before 1991, we had zero analytics in tennis. So I graduated from Baylor University in Waco, Texas in 1991. And I go back and I'm like, that seems a long time ago. But, you know, that same year was the first time stats became official in our sport. So many other sports, there we go. So many other sports have had analytics for, you know, decades, but tennis hasn't. So as coaches, we always had to kind of guess what we thought was the right pathway forward. You know, is it good to hit 1 million forehands and backhands cross court? You know, what should we do in practice? How do we organize our time there? And the traditional 1 hour lesson all over the world for a lot of years was kind of 50 minutes of forehands and backhands, rallying, grinding back and forth, and then we threw in some serving and returning and a few volleys at the end. And lately, especially, the analytics of our matches have really become a lot clearer. Not about 2002, primitive data, 2002 to 2015 better, but it's only in these last 3 or 4 years where it's really starting to take off. So I do a lot of analysis work for the ATP Tour. There's a section on the website under stats, and I write all of those. And there's an Infosys page. Infosys is the data provider for the ATP. And, you know, daily I'm looking at the data and looking at stories and just going, well, there's this match, and putting stuff together. So it's a real honor to be able to bring a lot of new data to our sport. And guys, thanks for having me along here today.
So, Craig, it's been an honor to have you here, and obviously I've been fortunate to spend time with you in different places around the world at conferences.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, and what I've got to say is it's very clear that your information, it's becoming more and more clear in terms of, it seems as though there's more analytics. To make it quite simple for our viewers today, knowing in mind that there are a lot of kids, a lot of parents that are watching, what are the biggest current trends and takeaways? You know, I know it's not easy to do, but in a short snapshot, what should everybody be really thinking about right now with regards to strategy in tennis?
Yeah, well, you know, for parents especially, I have a presentation, and in the presentation, I focus on rally length. So rally length is something that until 2015, we never even contemplated. So we would do first serve percentage and log that, and second serve points won, and we'd count how many double faults, and we'd count how many forehand unforced errors there were. But we never, ever contemplated counting, well, that was a 2-shot rally, and that was a 5-shot rally, and that was a 21-shot rally, and let's kind of see how many of those there are. And in 2015, we started doing that. And one of the things that we quickly found out is that tennis at the top level, at the ATP level, and it was at the Australian Open in 2015, 70% of all points are in a rally length called 0 to 4 shots. 20% went 5 to 8 shots, and 10% are in long rallies. When you look at that, you're like, that's weird, because all we do on the practice court is practice the long rallies. You know, we spend 90% of our practice time in long rallies, but only 10% of the matches there. And then when you wash that down to junior tennis, it's not quite 70-20-10. Sometimes it's a little more, but sometimes it's a little less. We see juniors typically around the 60% range in 0 through 4, but it's still number one. So my advice is this: when young players are starting out in the sport, your entry level to enjoy the sport is you got to hit the ball in. It's got to go in. So as coaches, we want consistency from you. We want a 4 and an 8 and a 12-shot rally, just back and forth, back and forth. And if you can hit the ball in the court, great, you can play our sport. When tennis becomes more serious, and when you're starting to play tournaments, and when a ranking becomes involved, and when we have money for airfares, we have money for hotel rooms, we have money for coaching, we have money for the club, it's like, hey, we're getting pretty serious about this now. We'd like to see, can we get some more wins out of this? The wins come much more earlier in the rally than later in the rally. So what we find is that the player that wins the 0 through 4 rally length wins the match over 90% of the time. The player that wins the 9+ rally length, or the long ones, it's only about 55%. So we've discovered a very real correlation between the serve, the return, and the 2 shots that follow. We call serve +1 and return +1. Do well there, and you will be winning more matches. In fact, the first 2 times you touch the ball matter more to winning the match than anything else that follows.
Wow, that's incredible.
How about that, huh?
That's incredible. That's incredible. Look, there's something else that I've been able to take away from you in the past, and it was something correct me if I'm wrong, something along the lines of, in 1 year, Rafa Nadal won, I believe, 55% of all the points he played for that year, and ended at number 1. So the takeaway being that he lost 45% of the points.
Yeah.
Think about that for kids today who get out there and play. I mean, they're trying to win 90-95% of the points.
Yeah. Well, what we're trying to do with here is help juniors understand the reality. Yes, we all want to win as many points as we possibly can and win as many matches, but reality says that, you know, tennis is about 70% errors and 30% winners. So we're going to make a lot of errors. So let's not get so upset about that. But if you're 1 in the world, you're winning on average 55% of the points. And if you win a match 6-3, 6-3, a great day at the office means you lose 45% of all points you play. And for the juniors out there, what happens is we get on this roller coaster where we win the point and we're really happy, and we lose the point and we're really sad. And as soon as we can get off that roller coaster and say, I lost the point, but it was the right strategy, it was the right shot, maybe it was my footwork, maybe it was contact, maybe it was spacing, but I was trying to do the right thing. And it's okay, that just goes into my 45% bucket. We can help juniors not get so emotionally distressed and have so much fear and have so much doubt and have a tough time with our sport. So the more we can understand the analytics, the more we can understand and have that wash over to the mental and emotional components. All this time at home, the new course I'm working on is called Getting Tight. And it's all about people all over the world that get tight in a match and how the strategy can help you out of that. So that's coming. Stay tuned for that.
Would you say that the more studying you do going into the match, that probably helps you mentally prepare when stuff starts to fall apart, right? I mean, it goes both ways. And I guess a follow-up question I would have is, when you're training with some of these top guys, with anybody really, what how much do you want to study the opponent, and how much do you want to improve upon your strengths? Like, what do you want to analyze more? Really?
Well, I'm gonna give it away right at the start. You are the second most important person on the tennis court. If you want to win matches, look to the other side of the court and make them play bad. So here's a really easy, crystal clear way to understand that. For all the players out there and the parents and the kids, think about this for a second. Think back to the last 12 months of your tennis, the last 12 months of your matches. How many times in the last 12 months, and I want to see you guys go into the chat. So over on the right, you're going to see a little chat icon, because I want you to write your answer to this question in there. So here's the question. In the last 12 months, how many times have you walked off the court and went, I played awesome today. I was really good. My forehand was there. My backhand was clean. I wasn't nervous. I was relaxed. I was calm. My serve was, everything was amazing. The best kind of tennis day. My A game turned up. How many times in the last 12 months has your A game turned up? You walked off the court and said, today was my day. Let's see a few answers in there. Typically, when I ask this question, whether it's to players in Italy or juniors in Australia or in the US, typically they're going to say 2 days out of the last year, sometimes 5. We got a 6. We got a 6 in there. We got a 0. I get a lot of zeros. John has got a 0 in there. Arish has got a 4 in there. Lawrence a 0. We got a couple over 10s. Well, we don't get many of those. But I love these answers. We get a lot of 2s. So think of it like this. We got 2s and 3s. Very typical. So if you play 50 matches in a year, and only 2 times you walk off the court and go, I was amazing today, what happens to the other 48? How do we handle those and manage those? And the answer is, you're going to win a lot of matches with your B game, and you're going to do it by making the opponent play worse. That's more important. It's not important that you play amazing. It's more important that you figure them out and put them into uncomfortable situations. So that's kind of how that dynamic works.
Sensational. Craig, I've got to ask, I mean, everybody's well aware of the fact that you helped Novak lift a few Grand Slam trophies. I'm putting it 99% down to you. How do you present your information to a guy like Novak, who, he's already arguably the best of all time, and who knows what he's going to do in the next few years? How do you present it to him in a way that he takes it away in its memorable, tangible, easy way?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. This is a real story. So in 2017, I started with Novak at the beginning of 2017. So at the start of 2017, he plays, and then he pulls out of Wimbledon. He's playing Thomas Berdych, loses the first set, elbow's bad. He's out for the next 6 months. So we meet in LA at the end of 2017, and it's just to kind of, recap and plan. How do we want 2018 to go? What do we need to focus on? And, we kind of talk, and it's kind of some small talk. How are the kids? What's going on? How's Monte Carlo? Great, awesome. I want to see questions of it, or do you want to see some of the work that I do? It's like, I'd love to. So I started showing him this keynote presentation, and the back of the court I have cut up into A, B, C, D. So A is, if you cut the juice court up, the outer half of the juice court is A, the inner half is B, the inner half of the ad court is C, and the outwide is D. So I go, Novak, tennis is a C to C sport. So we look at these Hawkeye heat maps that show, you got the middle of the court and all the rallying's going cross court, backhand to backhand between righty to righty. So I said, more balls go to this C area than anywhere else. And it's most important that you hit forehands there. And he's like, Craig, this is exactly what I want from you. Because when I'm playing a match, a lot of times I'm making decisions on two things. Is this a forehand or is this a backhand? Do I serve wide? Do I serve T? Do I cover this? Do I cover that? Do I go to the net? Do I stay back? So I said, the number one place that you need to hit forehands on the court is C. So I backed it up. I said, here's 5 years of data from the London Tour finals, where over those 5 years, you hit 72% of your baseline winners as forehands, only 28 as backhands. So he's like, Craig, this is perfect. So in this area, I need to hit forehands. Then he goes, where do I hit it? I'm like, great answer, great question. I have a great answer for you. And so I go, the first thing you do is, he goes, well, all I want to do is kind of run around and hit this inside in over the way. I'm like, no, you've got the opponent standing in the middle of the court. You're going to get burnt cross court. He's like, that's what happens. So I go, the first thing you want to do in a row is push back. So you go C to C, deep, don't recover to the middle, stay over there on that side of the court. Ball comes back, you move in a little bit because you hit it deep, then you go wide, and then you go to A. So it's a C-D-A combination. And he's like, this is exactly what I want to do. This is perfect. Yeah, I've delivered Hawkeye data. I've delivered information from London Tour finals. I've delivered information also from the Australian Open, which was in there. So, what we can now do that we've never had is we now have a lot of rich match data. So in these conversations, I'm not sitting down with Novak and going, hey, Novak, maybe you should serve out wide more, and not back it up. I'm not starting any conversation without kind of knowing where I want it to head. So, we can now start with this information. And, in this really tough time we're in at the moment, I've started putting out a daily kind of blog post that has all of this information. So, it's on my website, braingametennis.com. When you go there, you'll see a kind of a pop-up that says, do you want to subscribe? And just put your email in there. And then every day you'll get an email from me like, hey, here's your lesson for today. So, you want to derive your information from a lot of sources. And I'd love to help you guys with that. I'll take a breath eventually, guys.
Yeah, there you go. Can we break into talk about a little bit maybe how you helped Novak, or if you helped him with his serve technique? A lot of maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but at some point kids will be able to go back outside and just bring a basket of balls and work on their serves.
Ari, can I chime in and add to that question? Do you use analytics to drive any technical changes?
100%, always. They all, whether it's technique, whether it's mental, whether it's emotional, we've always put them apart. We've always taken these components and stripped them apart. Well, that's in the mental area and that's in the technique area. And I remember, coaching in Dallas, and I'd walk out the back of the club and see how the coach is working on stuff, and they're just working on forehand technique and backhand technique. And we want to say, okay, if you put the analysis in there and the strategy, you want to be standing in C. You want to be standing, hitting a run around forehand, and the number one thing you want to do is hit it to C and go through the ad court. So that's a classic example of combining technique and the strategy and having an end game with everything. Certainly with the serve work, when he had the elbow problem and came back, Novak historically struggled when his elbow, let's see if I can get it on film, his elbow needs to be away, but his elbow would get in too close. He'd kind of tuck it in, and then that would send all his, it's tucked in here, and it'd send all his energy almost vertical, and he wasn't getting enough of the ball. So, you want the elbow away. I don't know if maybe I stand up back a little further.
There we go.
Like there, he was historically there, and we see a lot of kids kind of get into here, and you want it below the shoulder, below the back shoulder, and there, and that's where we have him now. We have him.
Can we continue on the serve for a minute?
And it's all about driving up.
Can we continue on the serve? I mean,
what's that?
My serve is pretty terrible, so I probably need some advice anyway. But are there certain fundamentals that, like, all I saw a video of some of the guys, some of the top guys that have certain things in common, whether it's knee bend or extension, or how far they drive themselves into the courts. Just a couple of those aspects that, like I said, kids can probably work on before they can go, compete against each other in the next couple of weeks.
Ari, I'm going to tell you the truth right now. I was writing a reply to Rahul. I'm working on my serve in my living room right now. Everything is destroyed. I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed with that. I never heard a word you said.
I mean, Rahul is a legend. Thank God. I guess I'm gonna have to send him new stuff for his living room. But yeah, just again, I mean, can you speak to some basic fundamentals that some of the best players do on their serve? Just specifics in terms of attention or jumping into the court, anything of that nature.
Well, I'll show you one analytic. So at the 2018 U.S. Open, I looked at I sat in front of this computer I'm on right now, and I looked at. I think it was like 850, right in around that. I sat there and watched. It was actually, the screen was right above, but I inputted the information on my computer. 850 women's double faults. Can you imagine how mind-blowing that is to sit there and just watch 850 double faults over the course of several hours in the afternoon? But I sat there and recorded it, and I said, I want to know the point score. I want to know where the double fault happened, and I want to know their chance. If they double faulted in the what's the chances of winning the game? So the number one place the ladies double folded 50% of the time was in the net.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And the same for the men. When the men were slightly lower, they were about 46%. So one of the best things that you can do with your serve, and a lot of times it's the tossing arm, it kind of stops about here. It stays bent and it stops instead of really reaching. So one of the things that the pros do better than the juniors is they have a better tossing arm, in that the ball stays in the arm longer and the arm extends. The arm extends as straight as you can get it, and a junior will kind of get it up there and drop fairly quickly, whereas the pro will leave it hanging there for as long as possible. So one of the things that I want you guys to do, a real simple old school technique is go to the fence and kind of hold your racket up, nice and high, and then toss against the fence, and then trap it. Reach up and trap it as high as you can against the fence, so that you can have that feeling that you're really extending. And then you go to the baseline immediately, and all of a sudden you're reaching up higher and you're getting your serves out of the net. So that's definitely something that the pros do better, is height of contact, which is related to the arm releasing higher, the arm staying higher, the arm pointing at 90 degrees up at the sky, and all their energy is going up to contact instead of everything collapsing and coming down.
Great.
How about the second serve advice?
Ari, I'm not going to charge you for that lesson either, okay? That's for free for you.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I'll thank you. Appreciate that. How about second serve advice besides just getting it in? Is there just a generalized placement that's better for a second serve? In the box?
Well, what I love to do, I've got one junior that I coach in Austin. He's 12, and we're going to go actually for an hour after this. And almost every day we work a ton on second serves, and I measure 2 racket lengths in service line, put a line in, and he starts with 10 deep second. So it's in the deep area of the service box. So he starts with 10 deep second serves in the juice court, then 10 serves in the ad court. Then we'll get more onto first serve. So we do a lot of that, but then we also play a game where he only gets 1 second serve per point. So it's 15 love, 30 love, 40 love in game. You play a normal game. But if it's a fault, he loses the game. So you go juice court, ad court, just regular scoring. And as long as you make that second serve, you win the normal points. But one fault, you could be up 40 love, you hit a fault, game's over. So the first time he did it, he was on fire, and he only had 1 fault out of all of that. So he won 6-1. We did it a couple of days ago, and he got a little tighter, and he won. So it's a really good drill to have a little and also make all.
Craig, I'd be really keen to get your.
Let me go over here, Rishi.
No,
yeah, go ahead.
Yes, here we go, Rishi Gajar.
Great.
Oh yeah, Rishi says, so what you are saying is to stretch your arm up as much as you can. Rishi, 2 thumbs up for that. Absolutely. You've got to get that arm up, and you've got to keep it up there and not just get it up and drop it quickly. Conrad.
If I can, while we're kind of looking at some of these questions, if I'm a parent and I'm driving to or from a match with my kid, Bear in mind that Centercourt Tennis Academy has the largest UTR league on the planet. We have more kids competing at UTR level than any other academy in the world.
Wow.
We're proud of. Ari's the brainchild of that. Now, yeah, he's not just good looking, but what I want to know is, I'm a parent, I haven't played a lot of tennis, let's say, and I'm in the car with my child and I'm on the way there or I'm on the way back. What, if any, tips could you throw at a parent that's not sure what to say to their kid to prepare them? Obviously they're not going to talk about technique. They can talk a lot about maybe basic statistics or basic ideas. What would you suggest?
Yeah, it's interesting. The role in a lot is just to facilitate. Your job is to drive them to the tournament. Your job is to make sure we've got some water. Your job is to support and let your kid fail and lose some matches. The easiest way to think about that, the conversation starter and stopper is 128 players play the US Open, 127 players lose. So losing's a very real part of our sport, and there's so much the kids learn. We're a problem-solving sport. So your job is to, if the kid comes off and in a positive way wants to vent a little or let a little out of the system, is let it go. I think it was Bob Bryan that said the two questions that a parent should ask a player once the match is over is, what do you want to eat and what do you want to drink? And that's kind of about it. Let the coaches do the coaching and you support. And if your kid wants to have a conversation about it, then great. But kids don't need parents that are telling them all about what they did wrong and what they did right. And that just a big picture. We're trying to build a player. In an ideal world, we'd love all our kids to go to really good schools on tennis scholarships. And if that's an end game, be as supportive as you can as a parent, and find the time to inject some things. And that doesn't mean that things aren't always rosy. Another question is, what if your kid threw his racket and behaved badly and got upset and argued with an umpire and came off? It's like, well, can the parents step in there? It's like, well, I know I would. I've got two kids, one's 13, one's 8. They love soccer. They don't love tennis that much. But if I ever see my kids misbehaving on a soccer field or a tennis court, I'm gonna have words. There's a way that you raise them and a way to behave, and parents can certainly address that. But the strategy of the game, that's where your job is to support the coach a little bit more.
Great answer. If I can ask one quick question, actually Joshua Starr asked this. It's a good question. It relates to the key topic of scouting. And obviously what you're doing a lot of the time, and you're the best in the industry at this, is scouting and looking at how to beat certain players. What would you recommend to look for regarding weaknesses, and how should you be thinking while looking for those weaknesses?
Yeah, so, I'll give you an example, a classic example of this. So when Novak beat Rafa 2018 Australian Open final badly, the game plan for that is we just went back to the Wimbledon semi-final that they played, and we looked at every point Rafa lost. And then we organized them. We organized those points. Here's all the juice court return errors. Oh, there's a lot out wide. And then when Novak won on the tee, it's more like serving at 30 love, and Rafa thinks it's going wide. And where does Rafa make all of his forehand errors, which most of them are out wide in position D? So when you're watching a match, when the opponent makes an error, log it. Log where they made that error, because these errors are separated by time, and quite often we forget them. That same error happened 8 minutes ago, but the opponent didn't get the other person into that corner or into that strategic position for another 8 minutes. So you want to log where your opponent's errors are happening. You want to log where their favorite patterns are, and then just sitting and watching. You're at a tournament, you won your match, you play the winner of these two guys over here. You take note, take a little, write some notes down, write it on your phone. forehand errors, backhand errors, A, B, C, D, where are they making those errors? And you just look for patterns. That's all I do on the Pro Tour. All these pros are making errors. You find the pattern of play the part of the court where they're making the most, and when you tell your player to just copy it.
Great answer. There's another good question there from young Brady Eddie, one of our up-and-coming superstars. He's asked, do you think watching videos of pro players and trying to analyze and copy their strokes will help us?
Okay. Different layers to this. The layer where I say yes, well, actually, before I even say that, just let's look at Novak's serve. Does Novak's serve look like Roger's serve? No. Does Roger's serve look like Rafa's serve?
No, not at all.
Does it look like Zverev's serves? No. Everyone's serve looks different. So this is a huge, I don't know how old is Braden?
Braden would be.
He's young, right? He's very young. He's probably 11 or 12. Yeah. Let's see if Kirsten.
Well, very good question, Braden. So when I was 11 and 12, I had a similar kind of thought process as well. Is that at the time I'm like, when I'm 11 and 12, it's McEnroe and Borg that are playing. So I'm a lefty, and McEnroe's lefty. So I'll copy his serve. Why wouldn't I copy his stroke? Copy McEnroe's serve could have been the stupidest thing I ever did in my life, but I didn't know any better. So Braden, you will have Braden's serve technique. It's your size. It's your strength. It's your way in your mind of figuring it out. So what you need to do is not become a mirror image of these players. What you need to do is extract the elements and the dynamics of their serve. So if you look at Novak and you say, Novak keeps his arm up longer, let's take Braden's serve motion Braden's 10. There we go, even better.
I think he's
let's take Braden's serve.
10.
10, yeah. So what Braden, what you're gonna do is take Novak's motion, high toss and copy that. You're gonna have your motion that's it's unique to you, but you take these elements. So Roger may drive up with the legs. I'll take that. Novak may hold his arm up better. I'll take that. Kyrgios may land more in the court. I'll take that. Take the elements, but don't copy the exact movement. You have your special movement. You do it your way.
Stylistic differences. I love it.
Let me ask you a question too, which I think a lot of the parents are probably thinking. I know you touched on it a little bit, but let's say they want to go, their kids are training or playing matches. They just take a notebook and their phone. Is there something that they should really be focusing on the first time if they haven't really been taking notes or analyzing their kids' games? Or do you just say kind of make notations on every point on patterns and what's
not
working?
really, no. There's certain like when I'm watching, sometimes I'll skim through a match. Maybe I don't have a lot of time. The player I'm coaching played a night match and he won and he's first up tomorrow at 11. I'm like, I don't have time to do a lot of this. So I'll record an opponent's match, or let's say I've got an opponent's match, and I'll stick it on 4 times speed. So let's say, in an hour, I'm going to watch that hour and 15 minutes, and I watch all the points at 4 times speed. So serve, return, the ball's going back and forth. And I'll go stop and start in dartfish, before the point and after the point. And I'll see an error, and I'm like, that's a repeatable error. That's an error we can mine. We can do that again and again. A running forehand out wide in the juice, or attacking deep down the middle. And I'll clip that one out, and pretty soon I've got 10 forehand errors, and 8 of them look exactly the same. So, you'll get better at that. It's a skill set of being able to look at an error and go, oh, he probably should have made that. We're only going to get 1 or 2 of those a match, but you look at another error, it's like, oh, he doesn't like that. We may get a dozen. So you're looking for those patterns that a player's technique, or it could be technique, it could be even nerves in a particular part of the court can break down repeatedly.
Craig, I've got to ask one last sort of tennis question for you. We're obviously Aussies. We're both from a country where we really start with a volley a lot of the time when we're young kids. The surfaces we play a lot on grass. I know where you're from. Most of the courts are grass. where I'm from, we play at least 3 months a year. We have grass court nationals even still. So the volley is a massive part of the game, and we're shoving it down kids' throats in Australia. It seems here in the US not so much. What are your thoughts on that first statistically? How important is the volley in terms of winning points, even for juniors, and down to what age? And my last question, which I'll tag in, where are we headed with tennis? What's the future of analytics, and where are we headed with regards to this being accessible to younger players as well?
Yeah, Conrad, you may have seen Arish. He wrote, should we sometimes use serve and volley there? So the answer is yes. So when you look at a Grand Slam that has, you look at the entire tournament, and the average win percentage, you start with 50-50. Anything above 50 is great. Anything below 50 is terrible. So the baseline average win percentage for the entire tournament is 47%. So when Roger in 2017 won the Australian Open, he only won 48% of his baseline points. Serena only won 48% winning the women's draw. The baseline's a tough place to be. The net normally always is at 65%. Serve and volley is normally always at 65%. So statistically, the net's an amazing place to be. I remember the last time I was really on court a lot was 2013. I was running an academy here in Austin, and I went out one morning, and we've got our good group of kids, our top group, and I said, all we're doing today is serving and volleying for 2 hours. You're going to serve and volley in your first serve. You're going to serve and volley in your second serve. The opponents know it's coming. We're going to do it. And the first 30 minutes, the kids hadn't done a lot of this practice, and it was one of the first months that I was there, and they're getting used to Coach Craig, and the first 30 minutes was pretty ugly. There was not a lot of stuff going on, or not a lot of good stuff. But the last 30 minutes, these kids all of a sudden are starting to look a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more proficient and a little bit more understanding about the serve and volley. So here's my answer. Let's say, just generally people or parents go, yeah, once kids get to say 16, we want them to serve and volley more. Well, guess what? If they hadn't had any practice from 10 to 16, those 6 years are wasted. They're wasted. Your player is not going to all of a sudden snap his fingers and become a good serve and volley at 16. Those years from 10 to 16, you've got 6 years of practice where the junior rankings mean something. But, as coaches, we have two roles. We're coaching you for today so that you love the sport today. You'll stay involved in the sport. But we're coaching you for tomorrow so that you can be a better player tomorrow. So we want to introduce serve and volley and approach and volley and volley technique in 10s, 12s, 14s, and 16s. So it sets you on the path. So you arrive at 16 and 18 and, yeah, I can serve and volley. Yeah, I can approach the net. I got those skills. I got 6 years of history doing those skills. That's what those 10 to 16 years are. I mean, ultimately, winning and losing points in there and junior rankings, secondary, developing your game for when it really matters, for when, the colleges may be knocking on the door and saying, we'd love to have you come and play at this school. That's really important there.
Very much.
We do have a lot of doubles, doubles players on this call. Have you ever broken down, some of the, whether it's beneficial for both players to stay back, whether it's better for both players to come to net, one back, one in net? Are there any information that you can share based on any studies that you've done in terms of for all the double players that are joining us?
Yeah. Well, when Conrad and I were younger and we were running around the grass courts, I mean, it would have been everybody within a mile radius would have just dropped their racket and their jaws would have hit the ground if you served and you didn't in doubles, especially doubles. If you served and didn't run to the net. I mean, it's just like, what happened? You're not playing the sport right. Today, what's that, Conrad?
You get kicked off the team.
You get kicked off. You're gone. You're out for the week. Suspended. But serving staying back for a variety of reasons. One is they don't know how to volley enough because we're not doing enough of it in that 10 to 16 range. But in doubles, at the Australian Open in 2015, I did analytics on all the doubles matches. So this is really important to understand. And Fognini and Bolelli, the two Italians, won it, and they love to serve and stay back. So, they just kind of said, our strength is to rip groundies. We're going to rip it at the volley. We're going to make it really tough for them. And it worked. And people didn't know how to handle it back then. They had no idea how to handle it. But this, in essence, think of it like this. The study of the Australian Open then, when you look at all the errors, right around 50% of the errors were committed at the baseline and 50% of the errors were committed at net. So you're like, okay, fairly even. But 80% of the winners were committed at the net or created at the net, and only 20% of the winners at the back of the court. So the thing to understand with doubles is it's identical to beach volleyball. It's the player that is back. Your job is to set. You're setting, and the job at the front is to spike. So if and it's same when Conrad and I were playing junior tennis, we were still the setter and the spiker, except they were together at the net. I'm still hitting volleys cross court so that you can go in front of me and cut it off. Now I'm just staying further back. I'm further away from Conrad, but you still want to use the ground strokes as the setter to set up the spiker at the front of the court. So if you do stay back in today's game, okay, but realize it's not about you hitting ground stroke winners in doubles from the back of the court. It's about you making the opponent uncomfortable, whether it's depth, whether it's spin, whether it's height, whether it's direction. And then the player at the front of the court, your partner, is able to put the winner away.
Amazing. Craig, obviously I realise we're getting a lot of questions that are all mental based, and this Wednesday, we'll have another webinar with a mental specialist coach, Dr. Anthony Ross. So we'll leave those.
Great guy. I know Anthony well. He's amazing.
Just one last question for you. You're at home right now. You're an up and coming 10 to 16-year-old player. You're a doubles player at home. You're a club member. What could you do? What would you be recommending to do more of at home? Would it be watching tennis? Would it be ball and wall stuff? What would you recommend at this point could really help with those activities?
Well, again, in that young age group, you're still in a part of the sport or in the curve of the sport where you need to learn. I mean, you are in a learning environment that every day, if you can pick something up. So I would be, again, one of the things that I send out every day, it's free in my blog. I sent one out today, how the momentum changed in Simona Halep's 2018 French Open victory against Sloane Stephens, how she started really slow and then came back. I was at that match. I'm live tweeting. I put 24 tweets out and I go through that and I analyze my own tweets and saying, okay, this is when things happen. So your job is to learn. Your job is to understand the sport. Yes, you can be watching matches, but before you watch the matches, you want to know what you're watching. You want to kind of figure out what's going on. So, read some of the blog posts and go into the internet and study the game and then watch the matches. But don't just watch Federer play Djokovic in the final. So, where's Federer going to serve at 30 all, at 3 all? And I think he's serving T. And then, it's like, well, I can see, patterns. So what you want to try and do is look for these patterns. Hitting against the wall is great. Get the big sponge ball, the big red and yellow huge sponge ball and hit some against the wall and work on your volleys and watch some tennis and read some analysis and look at some video. I work with the Wimbledon channel, and on my blog there's tons of interviews and tons of analysis on there. So this is still a time to keep your mind active, work on your fitness. Right behind me, I got a little home gym right now. What I love to do is I'll sit here at my computer and type away for about 5 minutes, and I'll go do some triceps, and then I'll have my ab roller, and I'll do some pull-ups, and it works great. Normally I go to the gym down the road, but it's closed. So I'm doing a home gym and lots of learning and lots of analysis. And
are there even simple go in your backyard and tap the ball up 100 times, 1,000 times, both sides? I mean, anything like that?
Anything that's the feel of the ball. My whole beginning tennis started, I found in the bottom of my closet when I was, 8 or 9. Had nothing to do with tennis. For some reason, there's this old wooden racket that had all broken strings, and I somehow found a tennis ball maybe at school and took it home, and I had the width of a driveway and the side wall of my house, and I just take this wooden racket with broken strings, I just hit it against the side of the wall, and it's kind of fun. That's what got me involved in tennis. I used to hit against the wall all the time.
Sweet.
Sensational.
But,
Yeah. Craig, could you just, before we wrap it up, I know it's been a long session. Thank you very much for your time.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just give us a final plug on where it is we can find this information, on how we can follow, you and your analytics, and how the kids can, keep tracking along?
Okay, I just put my website into the chat. So when you go there, there is one of the pages is a blog page, and I just put the blog in there. So, there's either going to be a pop-up that comes up at the start, and it says, do you want to subscribe to the newsletter? And the newsletter essentially is, I put all the information into my blog, and the newsletter says, hey, I send the newsletter out saying, I just did it. I just uploaded it. So you will get that newsletter, which will have the link. You click on the link, and every single day you've got information about Novak. I mean, I write stories every week for the ATP Tour. I'm introducing new data in our sport on a weekly basis. So this is a great resource, and again, a free resource in the blog for you to tap into that. And then there's 9 courses. There'll be 10 very soon. You can look at the courses and say, I think this is me. The entry level one for you guys would be either the 25 golden rules of single strategy or the 25 golden rules of double strategy. And then probably game plan is all about the pathway of junior to pro tennis, including colleges. So, if those interest you, everything on the website's discounted 20% until the end of April. So you got free resources, you've got more in-depth resources there. And, it's a great learning place for you to understand the sport and to get better at it in these tough times.
Craig.
Awesome. You already got 1 subscriber, looks like. I did subscribed. There we go.
Oh, there we
Craig.
go. Perfect. Awesome.
Ari and Craig, just before we wrap it up, I'm really excited to announce a brand new initiative for Centercourt. It's called the Centercourt 360 program. We'll be doing a launch this Thursday at 7:30. Anyone who's looking for more information or the link for that, please get on to Ari. Centercourt 360 is basically a high school initiative. We're looking to develop and support the whole student from 9th to 12th grade. You're talking about things like personalized study, active study sessions, counseling groups, professional speaker series, nutrition, college prep, SAT, recruitment, all the rest. Our mission is really to, follow a format whereby we're allowing our students to holistically include the academic side with their sports development and their athletic support and athletic pursuits. We want to promote skills like leadership, mindfulness, healthy lifestyle choices, building camaraderie, confidence that comes along with being, well-educated, the use of technology and whatnot. We've got top speakers and professors from the area that will be involved in this. As I said, this Thursday night, Centercourt 360 program designed to really help the academic side to being an athlete. We'd love everyone to be there and be a part of it. Moving forwards, we'll tell you more about that on Thursday, but it's going to be, it's the side I think that for a lot of athletes and kids that go through that they struggle a little bit maybe with the academic side when they're preparing for SATs or they're preparing for, the college life. Maybe they realized at some point the pro path is not the path I'm looking for. I'm looking to get into a great school. I want to have a great education. That's what our goal is. What do you think about that, Craig, the Centercourt 360 idea?
Wow to the power of wow, Conrad. That's taking it to another level. I mean, that is attention to detail and extremely professional. So congratulations.
Thanks a lot. Ari, I'll pass it over to you. Craig, from me, I'll see you around the tennis scene shortly, I'm sure. But thank you so much. I know how busy you are, mate. We truly appreciate that.
My pleasure, Conrad. Thanks for inviting me.
We certainly, Craig, we certainly love to have you back, down the road, talk about another, variety of topics. The 360 presentation on Thursday, I believe, is at 7:30, but everybody that's on this call, I'm going to send all the information about that. I'm going to send Craig's website, and just an insane amount of information that can be useful for all of you. We thank everybody for being on the call. We are going to have many future calls. Us at Centercourt, we need to keep busy during this time. It's important to stay engaged with all of you. Check in with us whenever you guys need anything at all. We're excited that Craig came on today, that Conrad came on. We hope all the information was valuable. We all had a blast, and we'll see you guys Wednesday is our next call. We have a couple of next week. We have Dave Fish, former Harvard tennis coach, who works for the UTR as well, and more. We need to keep busy in between helping our kids with their online schoolwork. We're thrilled to be along with you guys. So that's all for now. We're going to sign out.
Craig, thank you very much.
See you guys. Thank you. Bye.